Hello, and welcome to this NEASC Virtual Global Forum, preparing for the end of the school year, academic closure, and year-end celebrations. We're so glad that you've joined us this morning as we explore this very important topic with NEASC educators across the world. We've had another tremendous response with over 1,300 attendees registered from over 65 different countries. Each of our forums focuses on a specific topic. In the past weeks, we've heard from school leaders, teachers, students, parents, and college admissions professionals. Today, we will focus on the planning schools are doing for the end of the school year. We will look at ways schools are preparing to end the academic year, as well as their thoughts about end-of-year celebrations. These forums have been a way for us to connect as a global learning community and to learn from one another. We have created the hashtag NEASC Forum and encourage you to use it when sharing your thoughts from today's discussions on social media. This forum is the 6th in a planned series. If you missed any of the earlier forums, you can find recordings of them on our website at neasc.org/forum. And also, you can find sign-ups for upcoming forums. My name is George Edwards. I'm the director of the NEASC Commission on Public Schools. Working with me today is my colleague, Jay Stroud, who is the director of the Commission on Independent Schools at NEASC. A little bit about today's forum. The NEASC Virtual Global Forum is a webinar and not a Zoom meeting. Because of the large number of people involved, attendees are view-only participants. Attendees can interact with each other using the chat feature. If you have questions for our panelists, please add them to the Q&A section, and we'll try to include as many as we can in today's conversation. Also, the Q&A section has a thumbs up feature. So if you find a question that you're particularly interested in, you don't need to add it to the Q&A. You can just give it a thumbs up and it will go to the top of our question list. We're thrilled to be joined today by a very diverse group of educators from across the world. Let me introduce them to you quickly. Kai Bynum. Kai is the head of school at Hopkins School in New Haven, Connecticut.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Charles Can, the head of school at Suffield. Andreas is the director of Antwerp International School in Antwerp, Belgium. Madeline Marceta Heidi is the superintendent of Asociación Escuela Lincoln in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Anna Mon. Anna is the principal at Amity Regional High School in Woodbridge, Connecticut. Kevin McCaskill. Kevin is the executive director of Madison Park Technical Vocational High School in Boston, Massachusetts. And Alex Zacara, who's the headmaster at St. John's High School in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. We've invited our panel today to share their thoughts as we all begin to think about what the end of the year will look like in a virtual world. We realize that there are a lot of discussions about the end of school celebrations, such as award nights, ceremonies, and graduation. We will also be discussing how schools plan to bring closure to their students' classes and programs. Now I'd like to turn it over to Jay Stroud, who will begin the conversation with us today. Jay? Jay, it looks like you're on mute.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
We'll say my unmuted welcome to everyone. It's nice to have you here. We're going to begin by asking our panelists to introduce themselves, tell you just a bit about their schools, and then we're going to go back and ask them to summarize their own thinking about where their school is around all the issues of end of year. I would add one just additional comment. We know that a lot of people have questions at this point. I think all of us have questions about the start of the year in the fall. We're specifically not going to be talking about the start of the year because it's such an enormous topic. We will be holding a forum on that specific topic. So our focus this year is on the end of the year and transitioning out of the year and into summer. So Kevin, could you start, just say a couple words about yourself and your school, and then we'll move on to Andreas, Alex, Charlie, Anna, Madeline, and Kai.
Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. My name is Kevin McCaskill. I am the Executive Director at Madison Technical Vocational High School in Boston, Massachusetts. We are Boston's only career technical education school. We are a 9 through 12 facility, and we operate 20 career technical education programs in the hospitality, construction, allied health, technology, and media arts and arts programming industries. And we represent, our school is represented by 97% of color, which is in complete contrast to the vast majority of vocational schools throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I'm definitely very excited about today's panel and forum, and I really want to do a lot of listening to my colleagues as well.
Thank you. Andreas?
Thanks, Jay. Welcome, everybody. My name is Andreas Koini. I'm head of Antwerp International School in Belgium. We are a K-12 international school located in Antwerp. We have around 400 students, around 40 seniors each year. We're an IBO continuum school with PYP, MYP, and DP curricula. For us, the situation in Europe really became difficult during the midwinter break in February. I recall that we had to carry out conference calls, online calls from the ski hut with our athletics division to cancel all tournaments. Our first day of school closure was Friday the 13th of March. What a day to do something like that. We are now in week 7 of our online learning, and like most schools have continued refining it. Maybe a little bit different to some schools in the world. We are right now in the middle of reopening discussions. The Belgian government is planning to reopen schools from 15th of May onwards and has put a lot of constraints and restrictions on that. And it turns out for us that the reopening is a lot more complex than the closing as well. So we are at the moment taking it on a day-by-day basis. The government regulations are changing so quickly that we cannot make super sophisticated plans at the moment.
Yeah, great, thank you. Alex?
Good morning, everybody, and hello from Central Massachusetts. My name is Alex Akira, and I serve as headmaster at St. John's High School in Shrewsbury, Mass. We are a school that we were founded in 1898 by the Zavarian brothers, so we're a Zavarian brothers sponsored school. And we were founded in Worcester, but moved to Shrewsbury in 1961. We are currently a all boys 9 through 12 high school. However, we are in the process of opening a middle school division starting with 7th grade next fall. So you can imagine that's been quite a challenge to open a new division at the school in the midst of all of this difficult time. We're a community, we're a school that serves about 75 different cities and towns all around Worcester County and beyond. We have students who come to us from as far as Connecticut and Rhode Island to attend St. John's, but we are a day school. And, you know, we've approached, and I'm sure I'll have a chance to speak about this later on, but we've really approached everything that we've done. We, like Andreas' school, also closed on March 13th when the governor shut down schools, and on April 21st, I believe, shut down schools for the rest of the academic year. So we've approached everything that we've done really through the lens of our mission and what we're trying to accomplish on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis with our students, and tried as much as possible to transfer that to a virtual world. So I welcome all of you, and I'm humbled and very eager to continue this conversation today. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Charlie? You're on mute, Charlie.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Charlie Can, the headmaster at Suffield Academy in Connecticut. This is my 16th year in this role. It's my 28th year at Suffield Academy. It's my first virtual commencement and my first pandemic. Suffield is a 410 student boarding and day school. About 70% of our students are boarding. Our students are in grades 9 through 12. They come annually from more than 20 states and 20 countries. And as I've recently realized more clearly, from around a dozen or so time zones, which has complicated our distance learning program.
Yeah, absolutely. Anna?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Anna Mann. I am the principal of Amity Regional High School in Woodbridge, Connecticut. I'm also a parent because I have a 9th grader here and I am a town resident. We serve the 3 towns of Orange, Bethany, and Woodbridge, and we are a compulsory high school, 9 through 12, with about 1,500 students, a graduating class of roughly just under 400, 382. And we went online as well. Well, we closed school on March 13th and we started our distance learning about a week and a bit later. And we also, so Woodbridge is right outside New Haven, so I'm neighbors with Kai. And we serve every kind of level of student, from our neediest students who we will have through the age of 21, all the way up through AP. We have about 22 AP classes, over 700 students in AP classes, and they, many of our kids go on to Ivy League schools, so we have a wide swath of students whom we serve.
Yeah, absolutely. Madeline?
Hi, everybody. Greetings from the Southern Hemisphere. I live in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I'm the superintendent of Asociación Escuelas Lincoln, which is the only international school here in Buenos Aires in all of Argentina. We have about 630 students from little 4-year-olds all the way up through grade 12. And we're a very, very diverse community. About 20% of our population are Argentine, and the remaining 80% are from all over the world, 45 different nationalities. And let's see, when we closed our school on March 13th, most of our families actually remained in Buenos Aires. So that's one of the good pieces of news that we have about this quarantine. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Madeline. Kai?
Hello, everyone. My name is Kai Bynum, the head of school at Hopkins School in New Haven, Connecticut. I spent about 16 years in the greater Boston area, schools, public schools, independent schools, boarding schools, single-sex schools, co-ed schools, and obviously I'm here at Hopkins now. Hopkins is a fairly large independent school, grades 7 through 12, co-ed. We have about 710 kids, diverse and dynamic as you can get. They're excellent kids. We are, like I said, co-ed in a day. And New Haven is a great location in terms of being able to reach a broad range of kids across Connecticut. We were likely the most geographically diverse day school in the state, so we're responding to a number of communities from the New York border, Long Island, New London, up through Hartford and Fairfield County, and definitely New Haven County, which certainly complicates things for our community, but also makes it a pretty rich place to be.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Kai. So as I think everyone who is participating in this forum can see, this is an enormously diverse group of schools. So the questions that we received over 250 questions from all of you who wrote into us, really covered the full range of issues around closing schools, kids, seniors, ceremonies, religious questions, dealing with parents, planning for the future, celebrating faculty. So it's difficult to put an order to them and say one is more important. They're so integrated with each other. So we've asked our panelists just to summarize their own thinking and their planning, recognizing, as Charlie says, this is the first pandemic and the first virtual graduation for all of us. And so this is an opportunity for us to share what we're thinking about and hopefully to give some ideas and to have a conversation about it. Madeline, I'm going to start with you. If you could summarize what your thinking is in Buenos Aires.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so what I want to start with is just understanding that we began from a place of, I would say, high stress, high anxiety, a lot of both parents and faculty and staff being really concerned and upset maybe, and just wondering about how this was all going to work. And we began with, like many schools, an emergency plan where we jumped into, let's just get it done. Let's just kind of cobble something together and put it out there. So within 2 days, we were actually live on distance learning. And about, I'd say 2.5 weeks later, we decided to regroup and rethink, because we then had an announcement from our local authorities about the extent of the quarantine, which was they go in 2-week periods. And so we realized that we needed to get feedback from our community and really think a little bit more deeply about how this was going to work. And we moved into phase 2 of our plan. So I just want to talk a little bit about what that looks like, and some of the main pieces that we've learned and what we're involved in. So our counselors really moved in very, very quickly. I think they were, to think about the word first responders, they were some of the first people to respond to our community being concerned, upset, anxious, just stressed. And so they largely now are in a routine of doing weekly messages to our faculty, which include some assignments and work for students around social emotional well-being. And they check in with our vulnerable students every week, and some students every day, as well as some of our faculty or staff that may be just needing a little bit more one-on-one. We also restructured in that phase 2, we restructured our schedule so that we would create more specific time for students to have individual attention. So I'm talking about middle and high school. In our usual block schedule, we are doing 3 blocks in the week, and we reserved 1 block with a shortened amount of time to really provide support for students individually or in small groups. And the idea behind that is it's not just the check-in, which is brief and kind of, light. This is a little bit more support for students, because we found that in terms of motivation and in terms of really following through on things, they needed to have somebody really be there for them, and that one-on-one contact virtually really is making a difference. The other thing is our ELL and learning support teachers can use that block to work with the teachers and to check in with those students too, and do some more. You can break off into small groups and do some work there. So that's been really helpful in terms of the way that we've structured our schedule. Our parent groups, I think they're the other group. It's called PAL, so Parents at Lincoln. They're the other very strong first responders in terms of galvanizing our community and reaching out to those that were in trouble. It's amazing. They just sort of did this by just in their own nature. They're calling members of the community whom they know are struggling and that they're a little bit worried about. We asked our HR team to call every single member of our staff. So there's 6 members of the HR team, and they divided up the staff, and they have called every single person once. We're actually now going to begin round 2. Principals have also called every single member of their staff. And that's really been helpful to just have somebody to talk to. It's a short call. Some people don't need a lot, and some people need more. So it's very personalized. I do Friday open time meetings where it's really, honestly, it's kind of a chance just to see people. And it's amazing what a difference that makes in terms of feeling better. Like you actually see people and you can say, hey, hi, how are you? We have usually a light agenda, but it's also an open time for people to ask questions. We still keep our divisional faculty meetings on Tuesdays, and we've been having more special focused meetings with our 4 and higher faculty to answer their questions about repatriation, as well as our incoming new hires, because they're the ones who are extremely concerned about whether they will have a job and what's happening, and are they going to be able to come to our school. I want to just also talk about, while doing all of this, at the same time, we felt that we needed to have a little bit of a broader set of opportunities for our community. So a little bit more organized, so to speak, and a little bit more like less of us doing the work and having the community open up and volunteer. So we created a set of opportunities, and we're calling it our wellness hacks during quarantine. And we divided them up into 4 different sort of like buckets of areas. And it's been, it just got started last week, so we're excited about it. One is the bucket around self-care opportunities. So we asked our community who would like to offer these kinds of experiences. And we went from people interested in offering ULA classes or yoga exercise classes, a sound bath meditation and mindful art class, another one that's a loving kindness meditation. And instead of a Zoom meeting, that parent decided that she felt like people were always on Zoom and so much screen time. And instead she just sent the recording. So it's an audio and you can listen to it and do that mindful meditation on your own. I think it's been incredible to see what our community is willing to do.
Yeah, that's great, Madeline. I thank you so much
You
for
wanna stop
setting
me?
up that. No, it's great. It sets
Yeah.
out the context for all the changes that are taking place, and it's beautiful. Alex, I wonder if you could talk about what St. John's is planning for the end of the year.
Sure. Thanks, Jay. So as I mentioned in my introduction, we've approached everything since the closure of school on March 13th with an eye on our mission. I consider us to be a very mission-based school, and that is always a central focus for us whenever we're making major decisions or dealing with major situations like this current situation. So when we've approached everything leading up to today, and also approached how we're moving forward for the end of the year, we've approached it. We're one of the hallmarks of a St. John's education is this holistic education, and in our mission statement, it talks about being attentive to the spiritual needs, social needs, physical, intellectual, creative, and aesthetic within our students. And so that's been some of the guiding thoughts for us as we move forward. From the moment that we, in terms of looking ahead and looking to the end of the year, the moment we decided to close school on March 13th for a period of time, we immediately engaged, and I think this is important, we engaged with our community in open dialogue. And so the principal and I, so one of the things I want to mention is we have, as I'm sure a lot of our schools have, what is considered to be sort of a president-principal model or a headmaster-principal model. And so the principal and I have been meeting weekly with elected and selected senior leaders. Number one, it's important for us, I think all of us are acknowledging that there's a great loss for our students. And so in bringing them into the conversation, that's been extremely important. And they've helped serve as advisors to the administration as we plan for year-end events. So in conversation with them, in open forums with families, and open forum with our underclassmen, we've been walking, as we approach the end of the year, walking this line between what can we do short-term and what can we do long-term, and trying to make sure, and one of our senior leaders said to us, as a class, we feel like we need to have some sort of closure in the short term, but also with an eye to potentially do something in a large gathering in the future. So that senior involvement has been extremely important, parent involvement. So we've set up moving forward some year-end activities that are going to help recognize those important aspects of our mission. So things from, we normally have a big spring arts festival that goes on for a full day at the school. Well, that's been translated now into a virtual format. Not ideal in the context of a school that values relationships and values the face-to-face contact between students and adults. But that's a way for there to be a sense of closure for our students that are involved in that aspect of the school. Many of our coaches have gone on and continue to have conversations with their athletes and provide opportunities for them to do training because the spring season was canceled. But even our winter coaches brought closure to the winter by having virtual banquets. So, the same way that they would have recognized students and involve parents and things like that, that was happening in a virtual world. We're also looking, into our summer programs, and there was a question about, I know in the question about transition and how do we transition and how do we get students prepared from where they are right now to the beginning of school year in the fall, where we're reimagining our summer programming at the school to involve that sort of bridge, doing some bridge work, offering opportunities for our students, either current students or incoming students, to do some bridge work over the summer to keep them kind of engaged and occupied in a positive way. When we look specifically at our seniors and things like, for me, the most important event in the life of a school is graduation. Our graduation is a combination of a celebration of Mass and a graduation. And so we have decided that we are going to put graduation off until another point in time. And so we are finding ways to recognize our senior class as we move forward. So that started with the day that the governor announced that schools were closed for the rest of the year on April 21st. We did something symbolic, which I know other schools have done as well. We are lighting our athletic field, you know, for everybody to see because it's on Main Street in Shrewsbury from 8:20, which is 2020 in 24 on the 24-hour clock. And we're keeping it lit for 20 minutes up until this Friday, which is their last day of classes. So we're marking that so that they know we're thinking about them. A week ago, or it was, I guess, 2 weeks ago, Thursday, we broke up into 12 caravans of adults in the community, and we visited all of our seniors. We have 206 seniors in the senior class, and so we visited every home, gave them a gift from the school, but also, you know, while respecting social distancing expectations, we just checked in on the family and on the student to make sure that they were doing well, because while all of us in our community have a sense of loss, we have to be attentive to the loss of our seniors. We also have now scheduled on the day of their graduation, we've worked it out with Shrewsbury Police Department. We're going to have a caravan that goes through the campus, and we're going to line the campus again, respecting social distancing expectations. We're going to invite faculty and staff to be there and to sort of send our seniors off. And then in June, we've contracted with a company that's going to come in and we have a very large parking lot for our athletic fields, and we're going to convert that into a drive-in. And it's not going to be a virtual graduation. We have heard loud and clear from our seniors and from their families that they do not want a virtual graduation, so we're honoring that. But we are going to have a celebration of the senior class where we're going to create a video of the class where every student will be represented. There'll be a closing slide that, you know, they'll show their freshman picture, they'll show pictures that the families provide, senior picture, and then where they're off to college for next year. And we've engaged with our families and surveyed them to see what graduation might look like in the future. So the first opportunity for us to consider a graduation we're putting into August. And graduation is not going to look the way it traditionally does at St. John's, the way we've been graduating for 122 years. But we're looking at everything from a smaller full graduation where people are social distanced on a large field, or even breaking it down to our homeroom, which is sort of like an advisory system. They're with their homeroom teacher for 4 years. So we may do sort of that Ivy League model where you're graduating with a small group of students, and we're streaming that live so that other family members can attend, but making it just the immediate family and the student. So these are some of the things that we're thinking about again, but everything is guided by mission. What are we trying to accomplish with our students? Not just our students, but our families, our alumni. We're connected with our alumni, and it's important. We've had open town hall meetings with our alumni so they can hear what's happening in the school, but also being attentive to our faculty and staff as we move forward. So, again, mission. Okay, thank you.
Great, Alex. Thanks so much. Kevin, what's happened downtown in Boston?
Unlike my colleagues, we are part of a large system. Boston has roughly about 53,000 students, 125 schools. So when you shut down one school, you're shutting down 124 others. So I think our biggest approach has been from a social emotional perspective, seeing that the vast majority of our students are 74% to be exact, are socially, economically disadvantaged, and we have 92% of our students are at risk. So meeting those needs that's our short-term as well as our long-term goal. And I think one of the things that we're looking at when we're closing out, we had to make sure that all students had the availability of technology, from Chromebooks to internet. So meeting those needs. Our students had, between other needs such as food and housing and the such, those were the essentials that we really had to do part in. And I think we did an outstanding job developing what we call home base, in which every single student was attached to their vocational program, and all our academic people were used as advisors. So there was at least one individual it was one adult that all students had contact with. But I think as we move to how we end the school year, obviously grading is a massive, massive issue. And unlike, most school, some of my colleagues, we're part of a larger district, so we have to be in conformity with the other schools. And that has been a source in which I think the superintendent is really navigating well, and just getting over 150 teachers on board with that. And that's been the task of the principal and myself. And I think issues of attendance, and obviously physical attendance is out of the question, but how do we gauge engagement? And we do have the availability of logging on and seeing how many times students are getting on and as such, because this will have an effect on their grades. And also just what do we do about promotion? Boston Public Schools has made a decision that every student will be promoted. And what does that look like? And obviously teachers have some questions on that, as well as some administrators, but these are the things that we have to hash out in order to plan for the following year. And I like the fact of graduation, and I agree with Alex Ahoy. When you're looking at a senior, they've been looking forward to this probably since they got out of elementary school. And we are still teasing the fact of what do we do for graduation. We're looking at May 18th because I think that's a day that the governor here in Massachusetts will make a decision on opening up the state. And if that's the case, we're actually teasing ideas about having mini graduations divided up by our vocational programs, which are, again, 20. And if we can look at small crowds, because some programs only have three or four students, we could actually social distance in the gymnasium, in which you limit maybe one, possibly two parents coming in. It'll be tiring for the administrative team doing roughly 12 graduations, but I think it'll be well worth it to really send the seniors off the way they should. And one of the things that we also have to look at is how do we close the school down? And so we are currently in a system in which teachers are, like, starting today, we're having maybe groups of 5 to 10 teachers every hour coming in to either shut down their vocational programs as well as pick up any belongings that they may have. And we'll do a second in June as well. But these are all the activities that go into, the larger scheme of things. And Alex, again, brought that up. How do we transition this into our summer program as well as looking forward to September? And everything that we do now really ties in. I saw a few things on the chat looking at how you transition kids, especially incoming kids, and I'll save some conversation for that. But we are really trying to do, I think, God's work in probably one of the 100-year occurrence. And I can applaud everyone on this panel because, again, I think we all know what each of us is going through.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Thanks so much. Anna, do you want to talk about what's happening in your school?
Sure thing. So one of the kind of back to Alex's point and Kevin's point about thinking about the kids and thinking about our mission of our school and our focus, our core values are fairness, respect, and passion, and we kind of live pretty closely to those as much as we can. And we are really focused on having as much voice from our students as possible in all of our decision making, as well as giving our chance for our parents and our teachers. We have a really empowered staff, and they are very closely connected with their kids and very passionate about serving Amity. And so we've been working hard to try to get feedback from everyone since we went to distance learning. So right after, we actually did have our April break. It was about 3 weeks after we started online learning. So we felt like we really needed to honor the time and give everybody a chance to breathe. So that was in the middle of April. So when we came back on April 20th, my administrative team and I met with our student government and specifically with our class councils, with our junior class council and our senior class council, because each of them have kind of unique needs and unique interests. And so, our juniors, we talked a lot about how does this year, end of this year, kind of get pushed to next year, and how are we going to make their senior year, really special. And and our juniors are in a unique position, I think, across the world, because they are anticipating all of the changes that are going to happen as a fallout from this, what their application process is going to look like, what their senior year is going to look like. So we are very intent on continuing to work with them. However, with our seniors, as everyone's already said, they're at a great loss for their last little bit of their senior year. And so we have some ideas of different things we were taught. When we met with our senior class, one of my associate principals kind of asked the seniors to come up with various contingency plans, so starting with your main goal, which was to have normal graduation out on the football field. And, that was what they put on as number one. And then working backwards from there, kind of to our most restrictive, which would be, where we are now, which is we can't have crowds larger than 5. And, we certainly can't have a regular graduation. So and as Alex said, we've heard across, the whole time, kids don't want a virtual graduation. So we may do some sort of hybrid commencement where we video, we record some portions, kind of the more ceremonial pieces, but the conferring of the diplomas we're very much committed to doing in an in-person way. So that might mean a drive-up, a drive-by kind of conferring of the diploma where parents can bring their kids to the school and have their kids be wearing their caps and gowns, and they can get out and get their diplomas and take pictures with us at that point. Or we're also considering, having smaller groups similar to what everyone has already said, in some fashion where we can socially distance appropriately. Our situation is confounded a little bit by the fact that we have a major capital improvement project happening on June 12th, and our commencement is supposed to be June 10th. And so where our entire athletic complex is being torn up, and we normally graduate on our football field. So, we are pretty committed to having our kids graduate on time rather than pushing it off. Everyone kind of feels that it's an appropriate kind of culminating to the end of the year. We certainly our students, part of our senior conversation was that they will be able to do things as a class after graduation and continue that on. But I also want to speak a little bit to the teacher piece because, this is a great loss for our kids. It's a huge loss for our teachers too. And it's very disconcerting for them. And so this week is National Teacher Appreciation Week. And so our students who have been planning, I work very closely with my principals committee to plan to plan Teacher Appreciation Week. And so they've been working on this since January. So they continued with their plan. And our theme this year was our Amity teachers go for gold. It was supposed to be an Olympic theme. So who knew the Olympics was going to get pushed off? But my students committed to it. And so they made, video compilations for each department. So they kind of broke it up by department. So every department has a special message from a bunch of students who are, they posted on our website and they sent out emails yesterday morning. We paint our rock there's a rock out in front of our school. So the administrators and I painted the rock and, put some Olympic rings out there. And, we have their gifts for them when they get back. But I think it's really important, just like everyone else has said, to take the feedback from all stakeholders, from parents. My PTSO, our first day out was March 13th. We happened to have a parent-teacher meeting, a PTSO meeting on March 12th. And so the parents were already thinking about what are they going to do for their kids. We all get lots of feedback from our parents and from our teachers. And so I think that the best we can to honor that and hear what everyone's saying and kind of validate their feelings and let them know that, we're going to get through this and, we're going to get through this together.
Great. Thanks, Anna. Charlie, with a population of kids from all over the world, and as you said, 12 different time zones, a very different challenge from the schools who have kids who are living locally. How is Suffield planning for the end of the year and graduation ceremonies?
Yes, as you can tell from this call, and I know from my involvement with NEASC, our schools certainly range in sizes and mission and resources. I'd say we, or at least I, have found the move to remote learning more successful than we anticipated for academics, even with the huge challenge of time zones. We have found the challenge of remote learning co-curricular programs more difficult, and we'll be spending considerably more time planning these as we look to the possibilities for the 2020-2021 academic year. Our end-of-year planning centers usually on two areas. One is recognizing and honoring the members of our graduating class. And second is preparing for the various leadership roles and responsibilities for next year, mostly for our juniors. In terms of traditional commencement activities, I'd highlight 5 events we annually host on the last Thursday and Friday of May. The first is a senior parent faculty dinner. The second is a cum laude induction ceremony. Third is a Torch Society induction ceremony. This is a student-led group that recognizes unique contributions to Suffield. Fourth is a baccalaureate service, after which members of the class have a chance to thank each faculty member in a procession line. And last is our formal commencement program, traditionally held on a Friday morning. Here's how we're organizing these events for 2020. We're producing the Cum Laude and Torch Society programs in-house with our marketing and communication staff and faculty members who lead those areas. The senior faculty parent dinner is obviously canceled. We're replacing the baccalaureate with a video presentation designed in-house, and beyond content, including music and some remarks and photos, we plan to have each faculty member send a short video clip or photo sending best wishes to our graduates. And last and most extensively, we're working with a third-party production company to film a commencement program on campus. This will be executed 10 days before the event, so we have sufficient production time. Our commencement speaker will be here. We will present awards and prizes. We will recognize each graduate, and when their name is called, their photo will appear. Our student speakers selected by the class are also coming to campus. So 5 or 6 people will be here and appropriately socially distanced to film the event. And as I mentioned, because of our production needs, the timeline surrounding this event has been vastly accelerated, including student prize voting. Our technology director was incredibly helpful with this in moving much of it to Microsoft Forms. While we also plan to recognize the class of 2020 on campus when it's safe to do so, the realities of being a largely residential school with students all around the world and the country make us cognizant that getting the entire class back here in late summer, next fall, or at some point in the future is highly unlikely. So we are certainly aware all of this is a luxury that many schools cannot do, but it is very important to us and to our students and parents that they have these experiences. They have very high expectations for the commencement related events, even virtually, I think. So that's Suffield Academy's plan.
That's great, Charlie. Thanks very much. Kai, an urban day school in New Haven.
Yes, urban day school in New Haven. So a lot has been said already, so I'm gonna try not to repeat a lot of the same mission-driven initiatives and responses that all the great schools in this call have already presented. I will say that I'll also discuss more of the what and less of the how. There's so many different schools represented, not only in this on this call, but in NEASC in general. It's just important to see what things were done, and we can discuss the hows later. We actually started, we announced to go virtual for the rest of the term back on April 1st. We started conversations with our faculty on March 4th. We had our first professional development day with the faculty on March 4th, and then the first virtual day was actually on March 24th. And so we were in an unusual space of trying to assess how long we're supposed to be virtual. And then on April 1st, we decided to close out for the rest of the term. We had feedback from a number of stakeholders and resources that are associated with our school. And I called together a task force and the board to help kind of navigate some of those conversations. But that calling it on April 1st gave us a chance to do a lot of things in terms of clarity, in terms of planning, in terms of giving the faculty and our families a sense of what to expect in the months ahead. And it was applauded on many levels. We have 180 faculty and staff. Like many have already said, we've made sure to contact each and every one of them during this crisis. I've made individual contacts, as have other people on the team, to figure out ways that we can continue to support them through this and see how they're doing. Our academic schedule was abbreviated as we went virtual, so we didn't try to cram in the same level of contact time in a virtual setting. We knew that we sensed that the screen time would just overwhelm both parties, and so essentially we created an abbreviated schedule where there's no classes on Wednesday. We have faculty meetings on Wednesdays and department meetings on Wednesdays. We also decided to do away with exams for the spring term, which was a welcomed move on our part. And like so many others, we're figuring out ways to do different things with our extracurricular, co-curricular activities in terms of virtual art galleries. Our spring play became a series of podcasts. Coaches still providing feedback and training to their athletes, and virtual meetings and banquets as well. So we're doing our best to kind of maintain those connections as best as possible. Everybody's thinking about grading, as Kevin said. We were framed between pass, fail, and the regular just grades that we've always had. We decided for a space in the middle we're calling grade bracing, where our kids will not, the floor of their grade will be the grade they earned at the end of the third term. And then they can either progress from that point, or if they're experiencing some other sort of difficulties, they know they're protected from that. And we just kind of swoop in with our advisory system and our student support system to get a sense of what the kids need at that time, to make sure that we have as flexible a model as possible. We also launched an emergency relief fund for financial aid for our families. Hopkins is an independent school and it's a tuition-driven school. And so we recognize that there's a potential of our families needing additional support into the summertime, not knowing how the crisis was going to impact their families. It was very well received in the community to figure out how that relief fund will support our current families. Our student life has been pretty vibrant, I would say that. We started this whole process making sure that the home dynamics were in place in terms of the resources with technology and food and other essentials that our kids would need. During this virtual setting, we maintained advisor groups, as many others have said. Our academic support is also maintained. A social-emotional support with our school counselors, school psychologists, our student ambassadors, and those support teams have also been pretty active in all of this. And we've actually had our first technology-free holiday yesterday, where I said no Zoom classes, no Zoom meetings, no emails for the entire community. So that was a good thing for us, because at this time, people, they're doing their best. Faculty are excellent, and the kids are trying, but their eyes are getting pretty tired. So we called a Zoom holiday on that. Our Parents Association has been very active, heavily involved with teacher appreciation and doing what they can to make sure they support the teachers and acknowledge all the hard work our teachers are putting in. We also launched a senior spring committee where they've discussed many of the things that have already been talked about here in terms of how we celebrate our seniors at the end of the year, what the events look like. There's a number of things that we've announced and some that we haven't, so I can't go into it deeply right now, but I'll just echo the ideas of individual gifts, acknowledging social distancing, sometimes meeting the students where they are and not bringing them to campus just yet until own state orders are loosened, and trying to be as innovative about those things as we possibly can. In terms of spring events, we still know a school that has prizes and cum laude and those sort of things. Those events will all be virtual. In terms of commencement, like you've already heard in several of the schools, our kids also say they do not want a virtual commencement. And so we will confer their degrees on time in June, but delay the ceremony to August. The speakers, I speak, our valedictorian speaks, and our senior class president speaks. And so that'll be the same model going forward in August. The location of that is undetermined depending on what structure we decide to adopt. In terms of communication, we've had weekly virtual assemblies, which has been great, where we had a musical performance from some aspect of our student body, which has been really cool, having families come together and either give a dance performance or a song that they created or what have you. It's been really good for the spirit of the school, and then various addresses from teachers and adults and administrators as well has been excellent. We had a heavy social media platform that's maintained the communication with our parents and our faculty and staff as well. We have a COVID resource page in our internal portal on our web that also provides resources to the students in terms of healthy online habits, healthy living at home, for parents, tips for how they can take part in the virtual learning experience and their role in all that, and with our teachers, our faculty and staff as well. Not only tips in terms of pedagogy and resources, but also helping with like the CARES Act and things that they can do that might be available for them in that setting as well. So try as much as we can to populate that in ways that helps our families and our faculty and staff and our kids. Our faculty meetings have been on Zoom, which is interesting, but is necessary at this point. The end of year meetings will also be on Zoom. We don't imagine that we'll be able to do anything live in June. And so we're just going to do our best to maintain those connections and those meetings in the Zoom setting. Our celebrations for faculty who are retiring will be a combination of Zoom and sort of a personalized, similar to seniors, innovative things. That's in creation, but we're excited about some things we can do there. Our faculty and student collections, there's a question around how students and faculty and staff are actually getting the materials from campus. We set up a system really, I guess, in March, where our faculty and staff had to sign up, and during certain times, certain blocks of time, we had a small number of faculty signed up to come onto campus and get the materials. We had our community safety department manage all that to make sure there was only a certain amount of people on campus at a time to get certain materials that they needed. At the same time, we made sure that the resources that the kids needed in terms of technology, in terms of the books, they could also get that. The athletic equipment, things like that, we're delaying until later this month to make sure that they have what they need for their summertime as well. We've also made sure that the spaces that have been used have been sanitized and all those as well. With summer programs, we have decided to go virtual with our academic summer school, as well as we have a robust enrichment program with the city of New Haven and Bridgeport that will also be virtual. And we are pulling away from all other summer programs for this year, including athletics and other things, just to give us some space to ease out and allow us some time to kind of figure out what the future will look like in this post-COVID world. I, like others, I really applaud not only our kids who have stepped up and leaned in, but more our faculty and staff. We jumped into this, we have 180, and a colleague said, essentially, we're going to have 175 new teachers when this thing starts. And they've really stepped up and did an excellent job. And I'm sure many of you can say the same thing about your faculty and staff as well.
Yeah, that's great, Kai. Thanks so much. Andreas, in Europe, you've got lots of challenges, not only within the school, but also within the government.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I mean, I think many things have already been said here, and we're all kind of doing similar things. I'll tackle it a little bit from a different side. As my pre-speakers have said already, I think communication in these times is key. And we as a small school here in Antwerp, we have the advantage that we can touch base with most of our community members directly. So we carried out a lot of service, we carried out a lot of online meetings directly with parents, with students, with staff members. And it quickly crystallized out that we have two most pressing sides of our needs in the school, and that is actually on the the opposite ends. It's one side on the early years ends, and on the other side on the graduating end as well. So let me start from the early years. What are we doing with the early years? First of all, again, I have to say Europe is in the position that we are slowly but surely opening up, and we're in the midst of this. How do we deal with all that? Yeah. So we have to deal a lot, we found out, with the problem of fear. We cannot force parents to come back, we cannot force students to come back, we cannot force teachers to come back. So everything we do at the moment is geared towards setting up hybrid systems. We will start as a first group to come back into school the early years. And that goes directly into our end of school year procedures as well. So they will come back on the 18th of May, but only in a limited amount. So there will be a hybrid of online and offline learning, even with specialist teachers kind of Googling in or Google Meeting in to the class with the classroom teacher at that time. Yeah. For those kids, it will be pretty easy to run the end of school celebrations because they're in school. And all those who are not currently in school will be invited into school at least for one day or one half day to celebrate the end of the school year as well. And that actually then carries on in grades 1 to 8 as well. Grades 1 to 8, we will keep on online learning despite the fact that we could open it up. But the restrictions are so tough that we really can't do it opening up for all the kids. So we have to keep social distancing alive and everything like that. So what we are doing there is we will create end of school year celebration days with these kids and have a staggered approach of bringing them into school so that we are not, or that we are fulfilling government restrictions in here. And within those days, we will make sure that the kids have a very nice and good closure of the school year. The teachers are the ones who really carry out these things. They know their kids best, and they will work with them in order to have a good finalization of the year as well. We're a little bit undecided still in grade 5 because grade 5 is our transition year from into the middle years program into secondary school. There is a chance we might bring them in because they have to do P-by-P exhibition as well. But at the moment, it looks like we're keeping them online as well. Yeah. If I go a little bit further up, then the sophomores, the grade 10 students. and the grade 12 students, they were our biggest concerns as well. Let me first talk about sophomores. We are powering on with our online learning program with them as well, despite the fact that the exams have been cancelled completely by the IBO. We are creating, nevertheless, online learning opportunities. So kids who need the direct contact in school will have a chance to set up meeting times with teachers in groups of 5 and come on campus. And that will carry on until the end of the school year as well. We have to set up a new schedule for that, and teachers will be required to give us at least half a day or 1 day a week where they can work on campus, and we hope that everybody will be able to do that with their own childcare obligations and everything they have to worry about at home as well. But doing that will hopefully cover those kids that need the social contact and they need the direct input from the teachers as well. Other kids, like all of the other panelists here said, they're thriving in the online learning environment, which is great to see as well. Yeah, I said already, we have the group sizes will be limited to five students. What I forgot to say here is as well, for grade 9 to 11, for all these kids, we will carry out online exams, not online, on-campus exam sessions as well. That's quite easy to keep the distance. We have, our facilities are big enough, and if we bring them in on different days, we avoid social contact of those students. So we will do those exams, which again makes sure that the kids are carrying on in the online learning environment. And I have to say as well, I mean, our teachers and our whole community was fantastic when they were setting up the online learning, because it just started flying from the first day. And I have a feeling that most of us have the same impression and the same experience in here as well. Let me go a little bit more into the graduates here as well, because they were our most pressing age group right from the start. And I give you a little bit of a chronological thing here. Our school closure happened during the peak exams preparation time. At that time, the IBO had not decided on how to carry out their May exams, so we completely powered on with preparing the students online for all the exam sessions, even for the MYP. Yeah? But then the IBO gave us the confirmation that no exams are going to take place. So we ended up in a vacuum very quickly. To overcome that vacuum, we decided to offer 3 weeks of university preparation courses. The teachers came up within 3 days with courses. We requested the seniors to choose a minimum of 2 courses to successfully finish the year as well. Some of them chose a lot more than that, and actually it really worked out very, very well. The next big milestone for the seniors was the last day of school, which happened about 2 weeks ago. In our school, it involves a lot of traditions, including, for example, staying in school overnight, playing some tricks on teachers and students in the morning, organizing a senior assembly with presentation and some awards. We had a senior video always, so lots of traditions in there. On top of that, it was peak review time, and usually it's super stressful. And we felt extremely sorry for these kids, because they were more or less robbed of all these, let's say, stressful but very, very pleasant experience as well. Yeah, and all these nice traditions. So we decided to do a virtual senior assembly on that last day of school, and we were able to include some of the traditions, like showing the senior videos, like presenting awards with some speeches involved, and things like that. What else did we do? The graduation is the next big thing as well. And I see there are so many approaches out there in how graduations are being done. We have pledged as a school that we give the kids a proper farewell, whatever it takes. Yeah. So we are just delaying our graduation. We will do it earliest probably in August. If that doesn't happen, we bring them back in September and October, and we want to have the kids in here. It's such a traditional event that we really cannot do it online here as well. And the kids, we have no problem with reporting. The kids will get their IBO certificates, the diploma certificates anyway online, so their university applications, nothing like that is jeopardized. But we want to have a real traditional graduation on campus. A few other procedures maybe that might be of interest to everybody here. Caps and gown photos are being taken at the moment. So how are we dealing with that in these days? We have just created this a schedule where the kids come in individually. They have time slots when they come in. We have specific hygienic, health and safety regulations. The caps and gowns that they wear for the photos will then be put in plastic bags. We'll keep the plastic bags for weeks in a pot or somewhere so the virus dies during that time, and we can then actually do the normal things with them as well. The same applies in our school for handing back any kind of equipment, books, sports uniforms. Yeah? We will set up a container outside in our reception area where the kids can drop it in a bag. They put the label on there, what is in there and who it is. And then we'll keep them there just for a week, so any kind of virus will not survive in that bag, and we can then safely store those things away. I think that sums it up from my side. Jay, back to you.
Thank you, Andreas, and thanks to all of you. You've answered just an enormous number of questions that people have asked. So we normally schedule these forums from 9 till 10. We're now at 10. But many of the panelists have very generously been able to stay on for another half hour. So we're just going to answer some specific questions, some that were raised, several actually that were raised by folks when they registered for the forum, and then some that we've heard this morning when the people have been asking questions on the Q&A. And I would also say, I hope everyone has an opportunity to look at the chat, because there are an enormous number of resources that people have shared just this morning that are on the chat. So that's an opportunity, and all those resources will be posted on our site. One of the things that several people, so I'm just going to ask people to raise their hands now as they go through, but one of the questions that was posed, and a couple of you spoke about it, but some people have asked for some more detail about how you're dealing with faculty who are leaving. Faculty who would normally be honored, some at the graduation ceremony itself, or in lots of schools where they would bring faculty up, some give faculty awards, but just the whole question of how you're dealing with faculty, many of whom may have served the school for a long period of time, and are transitioning out without the kind of ceremony and without the kind of recognition that would normally happen. And I know, Madeline, you'd mentioned this because you had some very key administrators who were leaving your school. And so I know you've thought about that. But after you've spoken, perhaps others might talk about how you're really helping faculty know how important they've been to the school and recognizing all the emotions that go with the students and the graduates for the faculty members who have been so important to them over the years. Madeline?
Well, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I'll just say that, yes, we have a number of faculty that are leaving, but we also have 3 principals who are leaving all at the end of this year, one of whom has been here for 20 years, the other one has been here for 10 years, and the third one for 4. So we really need to do and want to honor them and their time here. In Latin America, we do a despedida, and it's very important that we continue to have that despedida. It's going to be virtual, and the plan right now is that we will still go forward with it and have a virtual event. We're going to be asking people to submit a little video. We're going to ask the leaving teachers to choose somebody who they feel comfortable saying a short speech about not more than a minute or a minute and a half, to sort of honor them and say thank you to them, and maybe do a little bit of gentle ribbing as well, because that's always fun to do.
Absolutely.
And for our principals, we're asking each division to put together some kind of a video, and I'm hoping there'll be some silliness as well as some, wonderful celebrations of their time.
Yeah, thank you. Any of the rest of you who are thinking about how to honor faculty who are departing, yeah, Andreas. Go ahead.
I agree with Madeline. I think the online opportunities are just enormous here as well, and we can all be very creative with those things. One thing I know, if we are not able to bring them back into school and to honor people who are leaving, I will definitely make an effort and drive around their place, just myself and maybe the odd other person, whatever is possible within the restrictions, just to do a personal farewell there as well and hand over a little present as well. That's it.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about honoring departing faculty from any of you? Kai.
I'll be quick. I think, and it's similar to some of the kids too, but we're thinking hard about what needs to happen now, and what can also be delayed to next year. So one of the things we're thinking about is how we might be able to bring some of those faculty back later in the fall, or some of the sort of ceremony next year to acknowledge them then in person with the entire school community, or at least with the broader in-person community, and still doing some virtual things that Madeline already explained as well. So kind of balancing those two together.
Yeah, thanks, Kai. So a second question that's been posed in the chat, also something that you touched on briefly, but the question about giving awards to younger kids. We talked about senior awards and trying to honor them in graduation, but oftentimes at the end of the year, there's a whole panoply of awards. There's athletic awards, academic awards, artistic awards that are given to younger students. And where the question was just how you're dealing with giving out those awards and recognizing whether it's through a formal award, but just a school-wide recognition for the younger kids who would normally be recognized also at this time of the year. Any thoughts about that? Yeah, Kevin, and then Alex.
One of the things that we've been consistent about, we continue to do morning announcements, believe it or not, virtually. And so we announced the Cardinals of the week, all our honor roll students, according to the grades that we get, any students that receive awards from the winner for athletics, all gets broadcasted and archived. And any certificates or anything, we actually hand deliver those to the homes here to our students. So I think it's an ongoing process that we've established, and I think we will continue that pattern up until the end of the year.
Yeah, great, thanks. Alex?
Similar to Kai's thinking, we're sort of thinking about what we can do short term and what we can do long term. So we are doing some recognition throughout the rest of this year, as Kevin mentioned, specifically things like honor roll. But some of the awards, particularly for underclassmen, we're likely to push that off to the fall and make that part of a larger event at the school. But we also are sensitive to the fact that particularly for our rising seniors, our current junior class, that might be something that they have to inform or include in their college, or any sort of early decision college application. So we have to be sensitive to that timing as well.
Yeah, thanks. And Madeline, we wanted to thank you specifically because I know you have to go off to another meeting. So thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate this. Yeah, Kevin, please. Oh, you're still on mute, Kevin.
Waving goodbye to Madeline.
Yeah. Okay. Goodbye, Madeline. Let me ask you a further question about elementary students, because lots of our schools have kids who are in K through 8 and middle school students. Andreas talked about his work with the younger kids in his school. So I'm wondering specifically how you're focusing on the younger students in your school for moving up ceremonies and other kinds of recognition for them to help them feel that their lives are also moving forward. Thoughts about younger kids? Yeah, Anna, and then Andreas.
Well, we actually work with, so our regional school district is 712. So I've been working, speaking with the 2 middle school principals in our district about different, we're trying different things out as we move through the end of the year. And so it kind of goes back to one of the ways we left school on March 12th, and then school was canceled that afternoon. And so my students and faculty haven't been back since, and that's true for our whole district. So actually starting tomorrow, we have our PE athletic locker room clean out. So we have to bring about 1,200 of our kids back into school in a very measured way to have them clean out their lockers. So our first round to do this, and this kind of relates to the end of the year with the middle schools, is to use our student management system to sign up essentially for time slots, and then be able to move through based on security and my administrative team helping people stay socially distanced from each other. We only allowing 3 families per sign-up time to be able to come on campus and go through, move in a one-way traffic form through the locker room, the 2 locker rooms, to collect their materials, their belongings, and then leave. So the middle schools are actually thinking that if it works okay at the high school, that they might be able to do a promotion ceremony kind of that way, you know, kind of a similar idea of kind of a drive-through or a sign up for different slots, so that they can have some members of their faculty on campus in the parking lot when kids are coming through, and be able to not only, you know, we also have to, you know, Kai was talking about delivering materials. We have to collect our materials. And so that's a whole other idea with our senior class before they actually leave, and then with the underclassmen as they are going off for the summer. So we're kind of trying a few different things out between it's called e-collect forms through PowerSchool. And then kind of, you know, it's just everything takes so much longer because whatever we do, whatever plan we come up with, we then have to submit to the Department of Public Health so that it meets the need, you know, it gets the approval from that and then gets sent back to us. So one of the things that I explained to my faculty over my 8-day faculty meeting, because I broke them up into little groups, was that, you know, everything that we do, which normally is building based and a building decision, is now we have constituencies that have to weigh in that go all the way up to the state level. So it's just so much more to consider. It takes a little bit longer to think about that, but that's how our middle schools are thinking about trying to promote the 8th graders.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. Andreas.
In our school, we are physically not that disconnected because we're all on the same campus and we're literally just a few meters apart from each other, our primary school, our elementary school, and the secondary school. What is still possible at this point in time, which we do usually as well, is our grade 5s are heavily engaged in the PYP exhibition right now, and we usually have a system where we assign teacher supervisors or teacher mentors, but student mentors as well, and the student mentors are coming from the secondary school, and this is still possible online. The kids are still engaged in that. It's incredible to see as well how savvy grade 5ers and the lower secondary school kids are in doing these things, and that eases the way for those kids into the next level very, very quickly as well. Other things, the usual advisory things that we do in order to make sure that they are being welcomed in the secondary school, that is at the moment postponed to next year, and hopefully we can do it in class. But the direct contact between students from this section to the next section is already established at this point as well.
Yeah, great. So some of you had touched on summer programs. So we were wondering if you could talk in some greater depth about changes in your summer programs, what you would normally have planned in your schools, because I'm sure your summer programs are all very, very different. Certainly for lots of schools, summer programs have been a significant part of their finances going forward, and that may well be lost. For others, it's a way of using a campus or facilities in a different way, particularly around athletics and arts. And some have very intensive academic programs in the summer. So I'm just wondering what you're planning for the summer and what kinds of changes you're anticipating. So anybody can raise their hand. Kevin, and then Alex.
Well, as you know, the nature of our school, we're a hands-on school, and it has really this entire event has put a damper on what we do from a career technical education perspective. And so that is a big part of our summer program. So obviously we have to look at and retool what that means. So obviously going more virtual. I know Boston has continued to shut down all summer activities with crowds, but we're still looking at doing virtual vacations as well. As the regulations begin to relax, we'll start to get back to some of our more hands-on situations, obviously adhering to any and all protocols due to the COVID-19 situation. But I think we have to start moving, and I think it's imperative for us, and I can only speak for our school and our mission of how do we start gradually getting back to the business of really doing work-based learning as well as hands-on, because again, if we continue at this point, it really puts our kids behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, Kevin, could I ask you one follow-up question too? You'd mentioned earlier that some of your kids had some difficulty with just getting online or having the resources to do that. How have you been working with kids who just have difficulty accessing online resources?
Home base has been the biggest key, is again connecting our people to the homes, connecting to services that the city of Boston offers. For example, just getting a hotspot for internet services. Those were big crucial pieces for us, making sure that families had access. We've had over 700 Chromebooks to have for students, between them coming and picking them up and us delivering them. So those are situations in which we always have to be mindful of just, again, meeting basic needs of students going forward.
Yeah, thanks very much. Alex, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I just want to follow up. I mean, it's something obviously that I think all of our schools are concerned about, because all of our schools, reflect our communities, and so I think Kevin's point is an important one that I'm sure all of our schools have kept in mind. Because I know at St. John's, in the first week of March, when we started to see what was happening on the West Coast and internationally, we started to survey our families. So we as well, we had a significant number of students who didn't have access to a computer at home and didn't have access to internet. So we connected them to resources as well, and actually partnered with a school that had an existing food pantry, so that those families, because we had a number of families who have expressed some concern about food insecurity. So I think that stuff's important. In terms of the summer program, I think it's, for us, we made the decision, as Kai mentioned in his remarks, we made the decision to go virtual pretty early. We just didn't want to risk having folks on campus. And, but we see this, and frankly, I mean, this pandemic is, it is changing the way we are educating our students. And so, as I've told the faculty, and we had an extensive board meeting yesterday, I've told folks that this is going to change the way we approach delivering education at St. John's. And so that's true for the summer program. And so while normally we have the most intensive and robust part of our summer program are our 8th graders that are coming into the school and preparing them for, preparing them for high school, we do see an opportunity to work with students younger. Now that we have middle school staff we've hired our entire middle school staff at this point for next year, we have the opportunity to work with late elementary and even early middle school to get those students prepared. I think there's a great desire from families to look for opportunities to fill in the gaps that maybe have existed. We had no interruption to learning at St. John's. We were fortunate to transition to our Pioneers online learning platform right away, but we know there are local school districts around us that waited 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and some just started, a week ago. And so for us to be able to provide that service, we think is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Charlie, I'm wondering, and I'm going to ask Charlie, and then Anna, I'll come over to you. Charlie, how Suffield uses its campus in the summer, and what changes have you anticipated for this coming summer?
We have a summer academy that has usually around 100 or 120 students. That's been canceled. And we also farm out our school to some arts camps. Those are still unclear.
Yeah. Anna?
So I just want to kind of speak from the compulsory school perspective, public school. We have anticipated since the beginning that we are going to have to provide compensatory services for a lot of our students. And so while I've been on this call, the governor, a lot of people have said that they decided to go early, to go distance learning online early. We've been kind of anticipating that the academic school year would be closed, but the governor just announced in Connecticut, just while we were on this call, that that is going to be the case, following suit of New York. So, at this point now we know that the academic year is going to be completely off-site. The commissioner has alluded to superintendents that they should be planning for off-site compensatory services as well, which I'm not exactly sure how that'll work, because one of the reasons we need to provide compensatory services is because we've been off-site. So, we're kind of still planning on, we just started holding PPTs last week. And so we continue with moving toward more planning and placement team meetings to support our students who receive special education services. So we will work together with our service providers and our, certainly our director of pupil personnel. But we have our summer programming is mainly focused on extended school year programs with a few camps at our high school. And so I know that one of we have a very strong theater camp here at Amity, and it was actually run by my theater teacher, and he's very interested in continuing to do that. So he has some very creative ideas, which, he's a theater guy, so it makes sense. But he has some creative ideas on how he can make that work. So we're gonna continue to kind of plan based on the guidance and the governor's executive orders and work towards supporting all of our students and hopefully bringing kids back as much as we can, but still following, obviously, regulations and being safe.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, oh, George, go ahead, please.
So Jay, I was just going to chime in because I serve on the board of a summer program up here in New Hampshire at a boarding school. It's a 5-week residential program for 250 kids. And we've made the decision in that program that we're not going to hold the residential program as we have in the past, but we're going to move it to a 2-week online virtual program focused on leadership. And we're going to identify about a dozen state and local and federal leaders who will address the students, and then they'll have conversations and work around those particular topics. So just as we talk about summer program, I thought just, you know, another idea out there that is being implemented up here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, thank you. Just continuing for a moment, the questions about the summer. So we've talked a bit about how you're substituting programs and in some cases having to cancel programs and change the approach to programs. If we're thinking about our kids over the summer, we're probably also thinking about kids whose activities are not going to be as they were planned. I don't know what's happening in the world of summer camps, but it seems to me that probably all the issues that we're facing in schools are being faced in multiple ways in all the summer camps around the world. I'm just wondering if you're thinking about a you might not have it because you're thinking about kids whose normal range of activities in the summer has suddenly been changed dramatically, and whether there's a role for schools to play in the summer that has been different or might be different this summer when you think about kids who might be at loose ends in the summer in ways that they hadn't experienced before. And I just wonder if you've been having conversations in your school about addressing the needs of kids who would have had an activity, who would have been at a beach or who would have been camping with their family, or who would have just gone to a regular summer camp or a Y camp. And if you're thinking about other additional services for the kids over the summer that might not have been part of your original planning. I wonder if anybody has any thoughts about that. Yeah, Kevin. Go ahead, Kevin.
It's an important point. I think outside of, we serve a very high at-risk population, and some of those activities we depend on, and we actually service them. And so when we look at programmings, especially in our construction programs, where they will not have those opportunities or very limited opportunities, the question becomes, how do we fill that void? And that's something that a lot of conversation every single week for the past 6 weeks has been coming into play. We are definitely depending on our business partners and industry partners to assist, because one of the things as educators, we have to lose the ego and say we don't have all the answers, and maybe someone outside of education may. So we are really brainstorming with a lot of industry folks, as well as some of our community people, to really fill the gap for a lot of our students. And when I say a lot of students, as I indicated, 92% of our students are deemed by the state as being at risk. We have a high special education population of 34%, and our English language learner populations at 38%. So we really have to start looking at how do we fill that need and those gaps in a relatively short period of time. But I think we're blessed to have a lot of brain trust here in Boston, especially outside of the Boston Public Schools.
Yeah, thanks so much. Other thoughts? For some reason, I've lost the visual on my screen. George, if you see people raise their hand in response to those questions, if you could take that from there.
Happy to. Anyone else on summers and alternate programming? Well, I think our time is just about over. We really appreciate all of the insights that you've shared with us today, and we also appreciate your willingness to go overtime with us and to spend a couple of extra minutes to answer some of these questions. We'd like to thank our panelists. We'd also like to thank the almost 400 people that are still online on our overtime edition here of our forum. Again, thank you all.
Thank you all. It's been great to have you here. We really appreciate your time and your energy and your thought. And mostly we appreciate your care for your kids and your faculties and your families. Thanks so much.
Happy Teacher Appreciation Day.
Yeah. Thanks to all our participants for joining in.
Be well.